Are you looking to get involved in sim racing or to upgrade your existing sim equipment? DigitalMotorsports.com are the world's leading one-stop sim racing shop. We stock everything from wheels, pedals, PCs, cockpits, right through to fully built custom turnkey sim solutions built to meet your specific requirements. We're official distributors for the best brands including SimLab, Fanatec, Thrustmaster, Cube Controls, Husingveld, SimiCube, SimTag, Next Level Racing, Grid Engineering and many more. We offer fast, reliable worldwide shipping via DHL, and we also run some of the most competitive online racing leagues in the world. Check out digitalmotorsports.com today.
The GP Box is an online marketplace for motorsports merchandise and memorabilia. Browse for a whole range of motorsports products in all forms of motorsport. Take Formula 1 for example. There is a whole section dedicated to Formula 1 products from your favourite drivers, cars, teams or tracks from all eras of Formula 1. There are more series available, including WRC if you are a rally fan. You can even search for your favourite form of motorsport to see what products they have in your favourite forms of motorsport. Or, if yourself are a retailer in motorsport, you could set up your own shop within the GP Box to open up your products to a much bigger motorsport audience. Find out more at thegpbox.com. Good evening everyone and welcome back to Crest Autosport TV for the World Touring Car Challenge on Race Room. This is round one of a brand new season and we're coming to you live from Donington Park. 9th of February is when this championship kicks off and it is technically our 5th season. I know it says in the title season 4, but technically this is our 5th season running the World Touring Car Challenge, and we've got a big Hall of Fame to reminisce over, and we've got new champions to be born through this new season, and it's very, very different to the last, and we'll get into that very, very shortly. Just an introduction to tonight's track. We are here at Donington Park and it is the Grand Prix layout. So very famous with old school touring cars such as DTM, classic DTM from the 90s of course, and the early 2000s. British touring cars of course coming here every single year, but they race the national layout as opposed to the Grand Prix layout. But old school British touring cars did race here, and I remember John Cleland, Ricard Rydell, Alain Menu and many drivers, Paul Resich to include another, battling incredibly into the Melbourne hairpin on this track in 1995. That's a personal childhood highlight of motorsport for me. And of course there's the infamous 1993 Formula 1 European Grand Prix, it was referred to then, here at Donington Park, pouring down with rain as it usually does in Britain, and Ayrton Senna dominating that race. And it's one of the most famous laps in motorsport, his opening lap where he fell down to 6th or 5th on the first corner and he got himself back into the lead by the end of that lap. A very famous circuit. It's my personal favourite to drive in the UK, but we have 12 turns here for the drivers to take on this 2.5 mile or 4 kilometre circuit in the heart of England. So what have we got in store for you tonight in this racing season, in this racing round tonight? Well, we've got qualifying coming up in about 6 minutes time, and that will be 20 minutes in length, and that is of course going to set the grid for race 1 of the night. Race 1 will be a grid, of course, as I just mentioned, based on the qualifying results, and that will take place at around about 25 minutes past the hour, and that will be a 20-minute race. We'll go for a short intermission, and when we come back, it'll be race 2 of the night, and that will be 30 minutes in length. And the reason I say 30 minutes so dramatically is because last week's pre-season shakedown race saw the drivers really struggle in that second race due to tyres, so more on that in a moment. But that'll be a 30-minute race, and the grid will be based on the results of race 1, but the top 10 of those results will be reversed. So whoever finishes 10th in race 1 will start on pole for race 2. So those who do well in race 1 have got it all to do, all that hard work to do in race 2. So what are we racing tonight? Well, the World Touring Car Challenge goes classic, a little bit different this season. So in the past we have raced World Touring Cars from 6, 7 to 5 years ago, and we've also raced modern TCR cars in recent memory. But now we go classic. We go to the DTM 1992 class, and there are 5 manufacturers available in the DTM 92 class, but we have excluded the 4-wheel drive Audi as it prevents quite an advantage at certain aspects of the race. So we've decided to limit it to just the rear-wheel drive cars from DTM in 1992. Those cars and manufacturers are the Ford Mustang GT DTM, the BMW M3 Sport Evolution, the Opel Omega 3000 Evo 500, and the Mercedes 190e Evo 2 DTM. These are classic cars among touring car fans, particularly the M3, particularly the Mercedes. And the more obscure cars, such as the Opel Omega and Ford Mustang, were very popular at this point in DTM, and the Bathurst, the Super Touring Car Bathurst round that used to get hosted as a one-off event around this time of year, actually, in the 90s and the early 2000s. So there are the cars. And also this season we have these tracks we're racing on in these classic cars. Only a 6-round season, and over the next 7 weeks we're going to see some intense racing in these very difficult to handle cars. Donington Park here for round 1 of the championship as our UK resident for the season. Zolder will be next week, our Belgian destination, on the 16th of February. France is our destination for round 3, and not a traditional DTM track, but Paul Ricard will host round 3 of the championship with his big long straight at the back, missing out all the chicanes that Formula 1 use. And it's a big long straight, so we're going to see exceedingly high speeds there, just like what we will in the next round. Round 4 of the championship will be hosted at Bathurst, Mount Panorama as it's also called. That'll be hosted on the 9th of March. Interlagos will host the 5th round of the championship on the 16th of March. And round 6 of the championship will be hosted at the Nordschleife. Of course it ends at the Nordschleife. These are German cars, and German championship cars, and we're going to end the championship in Germany on the mecca of motorsport that is the Nordschleife. In its full glory, I think we are driving the VLN layout, so not exactly the full Nordschleife Nürburgring, but how it was raced back in the day will be where we're racing this season. You can sign up to the championship. We do allow late entries. Granted, there are quite a few drivers in the championship right now, but there are seats available for anyone who wants to get involved. Watch tonight's race and see if you're going to like the action you're going to get involved in. You can sign up at crestautosport.com. So let's get into the action. We are live pictures of tonight's destination. Tonight's drivers getting their practice runs. This is a practice session at the moment, so not too much for the drivers to worry about at the moment. And we have got, I believe that is 15 drivers in this session at the moment. Potentially more to come. It'll be late if they do arrive, but yeah, quite a fairly decent grid, I would say, for tonight's racing. So, who are the drivers? Well, at the top we have got Michael Clough. We'll take a look at him. He's out on the track, and now he's going to be in the yellow, red and purple livery, which seems to be quite a popular livery. A lot of people do drive this livery, multicoloured scheme. And he's racing on behalf of RAF E-Motorsports, powered by Splunk. And he's at the top of the stands at the moment, but the top of the stands was taken up for a very long time in this practice session by new driver to Crest Autosport, Diogo Quintal. Now, I haven't got much intel on with Diogo. Neither have I Michael Clough, to be honest. Michael Clough did join us for the Apex Tracks Grand Prix last year in December for the climatic round of last season's championship. But these top 2 drivers, I haven't really got much information on them, but they're doing very, very well in these rear-wheel drive beasts here in practice. And we got Ollie Janssen. Now, Ollie Janssen, I believe, finished second in the last time we hosted these DTM 92 cars. So he's definitely a favourite. So look out for him in this championship. We've got plenty of other drivers as well who are quite familiar with the Crest Autosport system. There are the likes of Jeff Perkis, who's been a very popular figure over the years in Crest Autosport, and our friends over at Next Gen. Ian Deeney, of course, is quite a popular resident. Remo Schneider, as of recent seasons in TCR, joins us for this. We got Paul Hans, Alex Ward, Coleman Corkery, and Carl Smith are some regular names to our championship from the past 18 months or so. And practice is about to end very shortly, and we're going to head straight into 20-minute qualifying, so plenty of time on this 1.5-minute track. I believe this will be, along with Zolder, one of the shortest tracks on the calendar. So here we go, we're about to set ourselves into qualifying. Look at all the sparks flying off that Mustang. You see how low that is to the ground, and that is something since the last time I've broadcasted anyway, where sparks and smoke and that sort of thing have really been escalated in the graphics of Race Room, and it's really, really cool to see, because you don't really get it quite as extravagantly, those sort of graphic effects, as you do on other sims. Maybe AMS2 is one that contends. But here we go, we're out for qualifying. We're going to do a lap of the track soon enough. We're actually looking at Michael Clough right now, not Ollie Janssen. And you'll notice with Race Room now, with broadcasts anyway, there's this new overlay we've got here. Now this is a rendition of the DTM one. It doesn't quite match our branding just yet. I have modified it a little bit, but still a few amendments need to make. But I didn't have time today. So yeah, it's going to see some modifications to this livery we've got on our broadcast. But it's nice, it's really nice, and the controls are much better for us broadcasters. Right, who have we got in the comments then on YouTube? We've got a lot of viewers, so thank you to those who've come along. Carlos Ferreira, no idea what he said, but I suppose he's supporting one of the Portuguese drivers in the field, so good to see him. There's quite a few Portuguese drivers in the championship now. We've got David Kernahan saying, go Deeney. Now, those two have been teammates in former seasons. David, we need you back, mate. We need you back in either the Mazdas or this. We've also got the GT Cup on Saturdays. Pick your choice, people. We've got plenty of leagues that you can check out on our groups on Facebook, or as well as our Facebook page, as well as our website, crestautosport.com. Do check it out. But now we have got a lap on board Donington Park. Here we go. We're on board with Michael Clough, who was fastest in practice, so it seems fitting that we're on board with him. Into Redgate we go. Sharp right turn, and the wheel's not turning for Michael for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why, but we'll go with it anyway. And through Redgate we go. We got a little bit loose. Now through the Craner curves and Hollywood into the left corner. Lift a little bit, he just about missed the apex. I think the tyres are still warming up as we head into the old hairpin, which is not a hairpin. Now we head under the bridge. I'm a bit hazy on the corners, so remaining now with the corner names, I'm a bit hazy on them. But yeah, speeding up the hill into McLean's we go. Oh, and the rear end is still a little bit loose, still warming up those tyres, I guess, is Michael. Up to Coppice we go, a double apex corner, down to third gear, 120 kilometers per hour, speeding out of the corner, drifting the rear end as little as possible, but enough so the rear wheel drive cars actually speed up. Down this long straight, over to the right he goes, and into the chicane we go, and you can actually cut quite a lot of this. You can see how much he's cutting already. Third gear through here, not quite a flat out chicane, but up the hill and then back down, downhill braking into Melbourne we go. Nice and low speed, down to as low as 52 kilometers, I think it said on there. Now up to the final hairpin we go. The entrance to the pits was on the left. It's not. It's after this hairpin now. Into the corner we go, taking a nice early apex there and flooring it as he exits the corner. Very smooth driving there from Michael Clough. It's actually not a bad lap despite warming up the tyres, and he puts in a 1:36.3, which I think is around about 7/10 slower than his practice lap. That was fastest, so plenty left in the tank. Diego Quintal, who was following Ollie Janssen up ahead, has gone top of the pops at the moment with a 36.0. I think there's plenty more in the tank for these drivers, but remember, they are warming up their tyres. Because these are rear-wheel drive cars, there's a lot of warming up to do. Now, something else we've got to keep an eye on is this little graphic here. Nice and new for this overlay, but this is a tyre compound graphic. Now, they're obviously not driving Pirellis, but or are they? I'm not actually sure. They might be old school Pirellis, but they're not Formula 1 tyres. But this is the graphic we got, and it can show what tyre compounds drivers are using. And I believe this will change depending on whether they're driving hard tyres or soft tyres. Now, my guess is drivers are going to go with soft compound because they are just that much quicker. And hard compound, well, yeah, it's not really worth it, let's be honest. So the range of manufacturers we've got here, we have got all manufacturers here. Now, usually the Opel is not that popular, but we've actually got 3 Opels in the field. Diego Quintal and Fabio Andrade, and I believe they both drive for the same team, so it makes sense that they're in the same livery, the same car. Although Fabio Andrade's car there says Privateer. If I look to my entry list, he drives for eMotion Virtual Spirit, so he is in the same team as Diego Quintal. So they'll be working together, not drafting each other, but they will be working together. Now, Michael Clough has just come across the line and has done a 35.1, and now that is substantially quicker than what he did in practice, so good job from him. That's going to take some beating. 8 tenths, near 9 tenths quicker than Diego Quintal, who hasn't gone quicker on this lap. Slotting himself into the times now, we've got Paul Hans. Now, Paul Hans is our only German driver in the field and puts himself third in what you could say is his home series, the DTMs. But Paul Hans is a driver very, very popular among the field in Crest Autosport leagues. I remember him doing modern DTM league many moons ago. I believe it was 2021, around this time, 2021. So 2 years he's been part of the system that is Crest Autosport. And he's been doing some TCR leagues ever since. So it's good to see him tonight and good to see him setting a good pace. Who else have we got? Drivers who haven't set times yet. There are 4 drivers who haven't set times yet. Fabio Andrade is one of them. Oh, and we got a spin there. That looks like Liam Hopkins has taken a spin out the final hairpin. He has set a time, but Fabio goes across time and does put himself on the board, and he puts himself 7th in the running. Ian Deeney is out on track now. He's one expected to be quick this season, always quick in whatever he drives, and he's currently 13th because he set no time. So we'll see how he gets on. He is on a lap at the moment, and I'm not always tempted to trust what we see on the timing delta there, but 6 tenths by the looks of it off of the top spot at the moment, so quite some way off. We'll see how he gets on a little bit later. Remo Schneider is another one who is fairly new to Crest Autosport, but he's done the lap. This will be his 3rd season involved with us, and he's performed very well actually in previous seasons. He won the CA2 category, which is the middle category of our 2 seasons ago in World Touring Car Challenge. So he has silverware, but he has stepped up into the upper categories, and he is one of those drivers who now contends for podiums, does at times contends for outright race wins. Carl Smith heading out of Redgate now. Now we've got a 16th driver in the server, that's Elliot House. He's always late, but a very good driver is Elliot House, so he doesn't need the practice. Carl Smith here. Now Carl Smith is one of those drivers that he isn't the quickest in the field, but he improves throughout the season. That's one thing I do have to take my hat off to him each season that goes by. And that Tic Tac livery is very, very popular in DTM, I've noticed. It's Carl Smith who's racing it, as well as Jeff Purkis. And Paul Hans is also racing the Tic Tac livery, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to differentiate, but we'll manage. I'm sure we'll manage. Now, Michael Clough is sitting in the pits here. Is he just sitting there with his arms folded, his arms crossed, said, that'll do. Beat that, chums. We'll see if that's the case. Now he's just sitting happy at the moment. Maybe he's sharing the broadcast. Now we've got a few comments. Right, David Kernan does Race Room R3 Reality, this is called, have replay function? No, it doesn't. It's not actually a broadcast software function. It's actually more of a race room function. You can't actually do it in the live. We're still waiting for that replay function. You can do some sort of a replay thing with OBS, but it's really not worth it. It's not quite as effective. So we're without replay still. Ricardo Pessoa Santos, good to see you, mate. Good to see you in the comments. I've seen you're in the entry list, so we'll see you next time at Zolder, which is good. Yeah, absolutely good to see you in the comments. Who else we've got? We've got D Bros Automotive. Good luck to Nikola Mikov. Now, Nikola Mikov, we haven't actually mentioned him yet. Bulgarian driver, is very new to Crest Autosport. He's shown his interest in the past, but he's getting involved in these races now, which is great to see. East European resident, gonna show what he can do. It's gonna be quite late at night for him right now. I believe it'll be something like 10 past 10 p.m. for him. But he's in the middle of the standings, doing quite well, so that's quite a good showing at the moment from Mr. Mikov. So, let's get down to nitty-gritty. We're about halfway through qualifying now. So, I'm just going to revert to Rodrigo Portugal, who is a Crest Autosport resident driver. So, go him. Indeed, him and Coleman Corkery are representing the team. And he puts himself 10th at the moment, does Portugal, named after where he comes from. Quite the patriot. And Rodrigo Portugal is a good lad. He helps run the MX5 league we run on Tuesdays. So big hats off to him for helping me out there. He's getting involved in this series right here as well. So we're going to talk about Diego Quintal. Warming up his tyres here. Trying to take a bit of a run up for this lap by the looks of it. What can he do? There must be something going on in his head that's making him think, right, I can get down to a 35-1. What can we do? And this will be the lap where he potentially puts it together. We'll stay on view with him for this lap. Let's see how he gets on. We'll go from a bird's eye, well, kind of a bird's eye view from our blimp. That's very close, scarily close to the circuit by the looks of it. Following us down the Craner Curves and Hollywood. Let's see how Diego gets on in this lap. Oh, getting very, very squirrely through Hollywood. And look at all the sparks flying off the back of that Opel Omega there. Which, by the way, is such a cool-looking car. A traditional-looking touring car. Half a tenth off. That's not bad. That can be caught up. Let's see. Let's see if the Delta is a little bit more legitimate than it has been in the past, because you'll say, he's half a tenth off, but actually he'll be nothing like that off. It's hard to explain. But the previous Delta was terrible. Let's see if it's better this time. Now, we're heading towards Sector 2 now. I can't quite remember where the beam is for this sector. There it is. Oh, he's half a second down. So all that time that Michael Clough has gained on everyone seems to be in that second sector. Now, here's the thing now. This is another thing to discuss with these cars. We have got 4 different manufacturers from a time where similarities, well, in DTM, similarities were so minute with the traditional DTMs we know of the last 10 years. Of course, it's gone GT3 now, so it's not quite a unique series as it used to be. Slower that time for Diego Quintal. But yeah, DTM, this was back in a time where every manufacturer was different. The shapes of the cars are just completely different. The characteristics of the cars are completely different. All these cars have got different brake horsepower and different weight. So it is truly something to really sight over. I do have a spreadsheet somewhere that tells me the specifications of all the cars. I have to dig it out during the break, I think. But yeah, they're all so different. I believe the car that's heaviest and got the most horsepower is the Mustang. What the Mustang has in weight, it makes up for in that brake horsepower, of course. And the BMW's got the least horsepower, but has the least weight. So it's all about power to weight ratios and that sort of thing, and they do match up quite well, all these cars do. But more to my point was that there's going to be certain tracks and certain areas of each track that certain cars benefit in more than others, and certain regions of tracks where cars don't benefit as much. They let themselves down a little bit. So that's all to look out for, and I do wonder if the BMW, which takes up quite a bit of that top 5 at the moment, but also quite a lot of the bottom, well, the bottom bunch. Just as I say that, our manufacturers disappear from the standings. No idea why I did that. That wasn't purposeful. Now, there's quite a lot of drivers in the pits at the moment. Ian Deeney's exiting the pits, but we've got Michael Clough in the pits. We've got Jeff Perkis in the pits, Ollie Hansen as well, and Elliot House. Quite a lot of drivers just sitting there, including pole sitter for the time being, Michael Clough. You got to admit, he hasn't really got much to worry about. There's not many more laps to do for any of these drives, including Quintel here, to beat Mr. Clough. Yeah, Michael Clough messaging YouTube. I'm not sure why you would have that message to return to the pits, Michael. It's a bit of a strange one. I'm not sure what that would be, but hopefully it doesn't affect your race. Not sure what you've done, to be honest, mate. That's a bit of an odd one on me. I've never seen that. Is it Crew Chief telling you to return to the pits, or is it the sim? Because that's a new one on me. If you can hear me, please do answer. Now, Diogo, outright quickest, a purple sector in Sector 1, but he's losing bags of time in the second sector. But this is more promising for him because it means he could match up to Michael a little bit more. Now, this is something I wanted to sort of point out as well. We did kind of mention at the beginning of the broadcast that these cars are going to chew through their tyres in race 2. Which car does it best? I'm just seeing if the times change for Diogo here. They haven't, so I've got a feeling the time delta isn't 100% accurate. But hey ho, we carry on. Yeah, I wonder if the Opel, with it having, I think it has more downforce than other cars, will it be better on tyre consumption? And by better, I mean less. I'm not sure, is the answer. Last time... there we go, you run out of fuel. There we go, Michael, that explains it. Yeah, sorry to go off track a little bit there. Funny. Yeah, I do wonder which car is better on tyre consumption. I would assume, but then again it's a sim, not real life, I would assume the Opel is probably the best when it comes to tyre consumption, because it's got a good balance of weight versus brake horsepower, and I think it's got more downforce, just due to its body shape and its massive wing at the rear end. You look at the Mustang though, the Mustang is heavy for its rear downforce, but I think overall it's not a very aerodynamic car. This is the thing, I'm not entirely sure Race Room how well it simulates it, because I haven't really properly driven these cars in a race situation anyway for a very, very long time. You can see from the BMW, it's got a big rear spoiler, but generally the car's not that aerodynamic. And the Mercedes, pretty much the same. The rear wing is very flat indeed, and actually this Mercedes, it really does slide around these corners. And I think the Mercedes and the BMW will be the ones that struggle the most with tyre degradation. I think the Opel is going to have the Opel Omega is going to have the advantage on that. Right, so we're heading towards the end of qualifying. 2 minutes to go. Drivers are going to have to do one more lap, because once that timer goes to 0, this is a race room thing, not a league thing, but once that timer goes to 0, that is it. Qualifying's over. You cannot finish your lap once that timer goes to 0. It is quite harsh, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. And that is race room in a nutshell. Now, Diego's got one more opportunity to try and beat or get close to his rival at the top, Michael Clough. And while we are watching this lap of Diego, there's not many drivers out on track at the moment, so there's really not that much attention to pay in qualifying right now. It looks like Michael has got this nearly wrapped up, but We have... Oh, he's done it. That's it. Michael was probably pole position now, unless Ian Deeney, who's the only other one really in contention. Oh, I got a bit distracted by Lee Balmer going off there. But no, Ian Deeney is slower than his personal best. And there we go, he reverts to the pits. So there's not many drivers left out on track. Coleman Corkery is going through the Crane of Curves in Hollywood now. He will not have enough time to complete this lap. We saw Liam Hopkins spin, which means the only driver remaining is the only driver who hasn't set a lap time yet. That is Elliot House. I'm not... Oh, there we go, he is on a lap. This might put him close to the top 10. It will probably put him about 12th. Let's see what happens when he crosses the line. Now, this is probably Elliot's first full lap. It is. He puts him 14th. So there we go. He's on the board and he's put himself on the grid. And there we go. There are our qualifying results. Now, they look a bit clunky. That's something we're probably going to have to sort out eventually on these standings. But we have got Clough at the top with Quintal in second. Perkis lined up third with Paul Hand in fourth position. Ian Deeney will line up fifth with Ollie Janssen in sixth. Remo Snyder will line up seventh with Alex Ward in eighth position. Fabio Andrade will be in ninth place. And rounding off the top 10 will be Nikolai Mikov. We've got Rodrigo Portugal in 11th place with Coleman Corkery in 12th, Lee Balmer in 13th position, followed by Elliot House, who did his opening lap as we saw it then. Liam Hopkins in 15th place with Carl Smith rounding off the field in 16th position. So Clough is our first pole sitter of the season. And while we're thinking about the season, I believe all the drivers in this field have never won a Crest Autosport Championship. So it is, well, an outright Crest Autosport Championship. Now, there are drivers who have won categories. So we are going to see a new driver in the Hall of Fame by the end of the season, potentially. And here's a reminder of our qualifying results to put them back up on screen for you. And we'll go through them as we head towards the race. We've got a 5-minute warm-up where the drivers can just get a little bit more of a feeling of their race tune. Now, we have longer warm-ups this season, and the reason is so people can go for a fag break, go for a wee break, anything like that. But also, there are drivers who like to sort of get themselves warmed up for a race right after qualifying. It's a completely different mindset from qualifying to race, believe it or not. So, yeah, drivers getting themselves primed and ready. Now, we're not looking at Elliot House right now. We are looking at Michael Clough. Good thing is, Michael's in a very distinctive livery. A lot of the BMW drivers have chosen to drive with the traditional BMW livery, such as this one. Mikov and Corkery have exactly the same livery here. But we've also got Elliot House, Lee Balmer and Liam Hopkins, who both start 3 in a row on the grid. They're all in the number 10 livery. So, guys, do some different liveries, please. We've got 3, is it 3 or 2 Tic Tac? 3 Tic Tac liveries, as we mentioned earlier. So, there are some favourites in the field, of course there are. It is good to see the Mustang represented as well. I believe Ollie Janssen did drive the Ford Mustang in our previous DTM 92 season, which was 2 years ago. Incredible that it was that long ago. The driver's just getting a little bit warmed up here. And look at all those sparks flying off the Mustang. That's how low down to the ground it is. That's how much that car depends on downforce and letting as little air underneath the car as possible. What it's got in brake horsepower will make up on the straights for the car passing through, the air passing through under the car. Now, what I'm basically talking about there is the effect of downforce. The more air that passes underneath your car, the less grip you're going to have, and therefore, the more higher speed you're going to have. Whereas when your car's lower down to the ground, you're going to have more grip, you're going to have more downforce, of course, and you can have less top-end speed. It's about finding that balance. So very excited to get this season underway. We have got 6 rounds, only 12 races all in all. But if you times 50 by 5, so we've got 250 minutes worth of racing in this season. It's really not that much if you think about it. So it's not a lot of time and not a lot of opportunities for drivers to really hit their mark, I would say, on this championship. But as I mentioned, if this is the entry list, we're going to see a new Crest Autosport champion. Now, previous champions of the World Touring Car Challenge started off with Lee Horn winning the very first, and that was when we were racing WTCC 2015, 2016 and 2017 meshed together. The next season was won by Luciano Wittvoet. The next season was won by moi. And then last season, now I've got a bit of PTSD from last season, but Lee Horn won last season, so he's a double World Touring Car Challenge champion. And in terms of DTM, well, the only 2 we've ever run, which is modern DTM, DTM 2020, and DTM 1992, both won by William Foyle. So we've got a lot of big names. Of course, Luciano Wittvoet, who won Season 2 of the World Touring Car Challenge, is an esports driver for Raceroom, who races for the Ballas eSport team. And he was incredibly difficult to beat. In fact, almost impossible to beat. Very quick driver was Luciano. Of course, there was myself. I did pretty well, I'll be honest. I did pretty well in my season that I won in my beloved Hyundai Elantra. Love that car to pieces. But we are looking for a new champion. And who's it going to be? Let us know in the comments. Those who are watching, let us know who you think is going to be the champion. It's so far a pretty good start as we await drivers to line up on the grid. So here is the grid. We have got Michael Clough on pole position with Quintal in second position. The second row will be taken up by Jeff Purkis and Paul Hans. Ian Deeney and Ollie Hansen, almost teammates I think, are lined up on the third row. Fourth row taken up by Ramo Snyder, a former category champion in the World Touring Car Challenge, with Alex Ward in 8th position. Fabio Andrade, new driver to the championship, in 9th position, with Nikolai Mikov in 10th. And that is the grid as you saw it there. We are about to get underway for the opening round of the World Touring Car Challenge Season 5. Away we go. Now, who has got the best of starts here? Clough has got a fairly decent start, and there's a big push together in the middle of the field here, but we head into Red Gate now. Through the corner we go, and round the outside, trying to go around the outside was Quintal there. Tyres are going to be very cold, so drivers have got to be very careful as they come through these very tricky and hilly corners here. Everyone seems to have got through so far safely, and it is Clough leading them into the old hairpin. Very close between Ollie Jansen and Paul Hans. I think Paul Hans has dropped back a few positions to from fourth position. It's not quite a good start for him, but side by side going through the kink there was Mikov trying to get alongside Alex Ward, and Mikov has jumped up one place past Andrade to 9th position. Purkis has had a good start here. He is right up on the tail of Quintal, and we've actually got people who've progressed in our standings there. Schneider's already up 3 positions. A great start for the Swiss driver there in 4th place right now. Back here we got Carl Smith challenging Liam Hopkins. Needs a good exit as we head towards the chicane, which we're going to keep an eye on because it's very difficult to get through here on the opening lap, and a big slide there for Clough, and that has allowed the attack from Quintal as we head down to the Melbourne hairpin. Taken to the outside goes Quintal. He's going to need a big undercut here to get it underneath Clough as we head out of the corner, but he's had a big massive understeer moment there, and that's allowed Jeff Purkis to get alongside as we head up to the final hairpin of the first lap of the championship of this race here at Donington Park. Trying to get a good undercut, trying to get the right opportunity to get alongside, but Perkins couldn't quite do it, heading out of the hairpin there. Oh, and a spin there for Rodrigo Portugal. Just going to switch to him because he was following Andrade very close, and he's taken a spin on that opening lap in the final chicane there. Heading into the red gate though, we got Ian Deeney. I think that was making a move on Ollie Hansen, but he's overshot it, and Ollie Hansen is going to undercut and try and get back past as we head towards the corner curves, which he does. Back into 6th place goes Ollie Hansen. Quintal has dropped back a little bit from Michael Clough here, who is more than a second clear. It's a good start for our pole sitter in this opening race of the championship as we head up towards McLean's here. Elliott House very close to Coleman Corkery, both in identical liveries. We've got Elliott House with the orange sun blocker there, and he's put his nose to the inside of Coleman Corkery. Corkery has respected his racing room, trying to challenge back, but Elliott House takes to the inside and gets through. Now, Elliott House is a driver who hasn't had that much practice so far in this session here today, but it looks like he's getting warmed up pretty quickly. Remo Schneider here is getting close to Jeff Perkins. Now 3 places gained already for Remo Schneider. Him and Elliott House, most places gained. So that's a good performance from them two so far in this race. Remo trying to contend for a podium spot here. 2nd of the Opals on track as well. And we're going to look at Elliott House as well, as he has been re-overtaken by Coleman Corkery. Now we missed that. That might have been coming out of the chicane. Switching to the inside goes Elliott House. To the inside he goes. Oh, and that was a big move to the inside. There's actually a little bit of contact between the two, but through goes Elliott House. Great battling from these two, and Coleman Corkery is not giving up just yet. He's going to take to the inside as we head towards Red Gate. We're on the 3rd lap here at Donington Park for our first race of the night. Deep to the inside goes Coleman Corkery. They're giving each other racing rooms a little bit of contact, but Elliott House has a better exit and gets back into that 11th spot. Brilliant battling from these two. Back towards the front. This is the top 5. Oh, and Remo Schneider's gone out of shape there and has had to recover, and he's losing out. Lost out to Paul Hand. He's now lost out to Ollie Janssen, who's back into 5th place. 1 place above where he started. And now Remo Schneider has undone a lot of the work he had done on the first lap so well, and he's under a little bit of pressure from Ian Deeney behind. Quite close between these drivers at the moment, tailed off by Alex Ward here in the Mustang, who gets very much out of shape coming out of Coppice there as we head down to the chicane. Ian Deeney close to Remo Schneider as we head into the corner. Back here we got Carl Smith. Has overtaken Nikolai Mikov, who started 10th but has dropped down to 15th here, so he's struggling to get the tyres warmed up by the looks of it. Or as we head into the Melbourne hairpin here, big undercut trying to be taken by Schneider there as we see the cars scrape around the corner with the sparks flying off the bodywork there. All these drivers close together, and Ian Deeney trying to make a move into the final hairpin. Can't quite get it alongside. Now the brakes and the tyres are still cold for these drivers. They're still trying to get warmed up, but also it's the opening race of the season. They don't want to do anything stupid. They don't want to compromise their or someone else's race so early on here, but this is the closest battle on the track, and obviously if you can see 3 positions ahead of you by just less than 100 meters, you're going to want that position. We head through Hollywood now, taking all different lines here. Sparks flying off the cars. They scrape along the ground here. Well, the person who looks after the tarmac here at Donington Park is not going to be happy. But we're still watching Ian Deeney as he tries to gain back up to Remo Schneider. Heading into McLean's here. Now, Nikolai Mikov is on the comeback, gaining back towards Carl Smith. Carl Smith in the Tech Tech livery. No move just yet from Mikov. He's trying to time it just right. The thing is with these cars, because they're so difficult to handle, you can't just lunge it up the inside of someone from a distance back like what you can with front wheel drive cars. You've got to set it up from a couple of corners back, which Mikov's doing here. Carl Smith has made a mistake through Coppice there, and Mikov is able to get alongside as we head towards the chicane. This is not the corner you want to go through side by side. Who is going to yield? None of them! Oh, Carl Smith eventually yields, and Mikov was prepared for that, but he makes it through into 13th position. Start his comeback. Paul Hans in the Tic Tac livery here, following another Tic Tac livery, Jeff Perkis. This is the battle for third place. Now, Paul Hans, German driver, in his home series, as we mentioned. He'll love these cars especially, and he is gaining on that top 3. Let's see what he can do. The top 2, by the way, Quintal and Clough, still, they haven't really separated that much, only by a couple of tenths since we last checked in on them, but it's still Clough leading at the top. And we'll see what Paul Hans can do in just a moment. Now, these 3 have dropped back a little bit from Ollie Jansen in the black and red Mustang up ahead. Oh, and poor Alex Ward, late break in there. A big shove up the rear of Ian Dealey, who's going to run wide and potentially get a slowdown penalty. And that has dropped him off the back a little bit of Remo Schneider. And Alex Ward, I know Alex Ward quite well. He wouldn't have done that on purpose. That might have just been the clunky braking from the Mustang. It hasn't got the best of brakes, and that might have been all it was. The next-gen driver chasing down Ian Deaney up ahead. A lot of drivers really spreading themselves out now. Now the tyres have warmed up. Now is going to approach that moment where if they've worked those tyres extremely hard, they're going to start degrading a little bit. Oh, as you can see already, Ian Deaney cuts the chicane, and he will get a slowdown penalty, as you can see on the notice board there. And how much he'll have to shake off of that. Well, the thing is with race room slowdowns, they're not quite as... they're not anywhere near as detrimental as iRacing slowdowns. Oh, and we've seen a spin. Fabio Andrade just powers it too much coming out the hairpin there, and he spins it. That allows Elliott House and Coleman Corkery through and drops him down to 11th place. That puts Elliott House into 9th position. I think that's 5 places gained for him in this race so far. This is brilliant stuff from Elliott House, and he's usually the entertainer of our series, gaining lots of places from the back of the grid, not having much practice, and I enjoy seeing that. It would frustrate me if he was one of my drivers, but I enjoy watching it. Alex Ward back up close again with Ian Deaney. He seems to be quicker than Ian Deaney in this part of the track, but when it comes to the braking, you can see he's dropped back a lot. It just seems not very confident in his braking with this car. It probably is the car's inability almost to brake for these corners. Oh, Ian Deaney getting very squirrely through the clanes there, missing the apex entirely, and this is how Alex Ward is able to gain back up. His lines just seem to be a bit more true, a bit cleaner through these corners. He's taking a more direct exit through these corners, and because he's got so much more brake horsepower, if he's able to maintain his momentum, he thought about the lunge there, going into the chicane, but it didn't quite pay off. He is lining up a move. He wants past Ian Deaney. He feels like he's quicker. And we'll see what happens as we see side by side between these 2 cars. And that's Jeff Perkis guarding his 3rd place. Now, Paul Hans did get himself in front momentarily, and it's very close between these 2. But lurking in the background, gaining on them, is Ollie Jansen and Remo Schneider. And Jeff Perkis gets out of shape, going into the hairpin, and that allows through Paul Hans into 3rd place on the halfway point of the race, and welcoming in another driver to this battle is going to be Ollie Jansen, who's going to try and contend for this 3rd place spot. Let's see how he gets on. He's gained on them quite a bit in the last few laps, and there's plenty of time to get involved and to get in front. Quite the battle for this top 3. Remo Schneider lurking in the background. We'll see what can be done. Jeff Perkis got a good exit, a good line through the old hairpin. Paul Hans nowhere near as clean as Jeff Perkis, who's powering his way up the hill, is gaining ever so slightly on Paul Hans. Is he going to take to the inside? Oh, he thought about it. He definitely thought about it. But it's so close between... He's right in the middle here of Paul Hans and Ollie Jansen. He's got to keep one eye in front of him and one eye behind him. And he just seems a little bit cleaner through these corners than Paul Hans at the moment. Hans struggling to deal with the pressure that is Perkis right behind him. One of the most dominating drivers in Crest Autosport race room leagues is Jeff Perkis, always contending in the top 5 spots in whatever league he takes part in. And this could well be a 4-way battle for 3rd place. for the remainder of this race. Just a little check-in on the top spots. Michael Clough has gained away from Quintal. He is the race leader and we're not giving him much airtime, but he is just driving away with this. I've had one race experience with Michael Clough and he did really well on his debut in the World Touring Car Challenge 2 months ago at the Lausitzring Apex Tracks Grand Prix. So there's plenty of potential in him. But here we go as we enter a new lap. Ollie Hansen takes to the inside of Jeff Perkis going into Redgate, but the car is not quite as good on the brakes as the BMW. But Jeff Perkis closed the door at the apex of Redgate, and Ollie Hansen has got to try again. He got so close and alongside and nearly passed Jeff Perkis, and now he's dropped back to a couple of tenths back. That's the beauty of these cars. 1 minute you can be contending, the next minute you could be dropping off. Perkis has dropped back quite a bit from Paul Hans in defending that 4th place of his. And Paul Hans pulling away in the podium spot. He'll be very happy to see Jeff Perkis dropping off the back of him. Gotta keep cool, gotta make sure that he can get it to the end here in one piece. Janssen is contending with Remo Schneider. He gets close to Perkis and then Schneider gets close to him. It's so difficult to handle these cars. Their physics are a lot more developed now than they used to be, so they're much more difficult to handle. You've got to be so conservative with these cars, and yet to make them quick you've got to be putting them on the ragged edge. It's a fine skill to drive these cars. As we take to the Melbourne hairpin, taking a much more shallow approach to the corner is Ollie Hansen. That just seems to be something the Mustang prefers, with it probably being a less grippy car than the others and heavier. But Ollie Hansen gets close to Jeff Perkis and he's close again. Perkis is struggling through that final hairpin. We saw him lose out to Paul Hans before, and alongside goes Ollie Hansen, but he pulls back in behind. I'm not quite sure why. He could have gone for the outside. He's going to set up here at Redgate. Let's see if he can get it alongside, but no, he understeers. Remo Schneider had a very clean run there in the Opel and will be real close to Ollie Hansen if we run down the hill. But look at that Mustang, it's just so powerful. It's pulling away from the Opel as we head down the hill, breaking into the old hairpin. Clean exit from the Opel, and I think that's where the Opel is at its strongest, is coming out of the corners, because it can just keep itself in shape. But that Mustang's quick, just pure quickness, and that's where it's getting its advantage, is when the differential kicks in. Its wheels are in a straight line and it can just boot it out of the corners. Biggest gainer so far is Elliot House. 5 places gained in this race. A fabulous performance from him, and especially a fabulous performance. 2 seconds clear at the top there, and 10 seconds clear from 3rd place Michael Clough, but he can't quite give up yet. Quintal is quick and he's lurking in the wings. Here we go, Remo Schneider real close to Ollie Hansen yet again, but they're all fairly close to one another. They're within a second of each other. It was a thought about move from Remo Schneider yet again, and 5 minutes remaining to get these moves done. The thing is, racers be racers. I always say that on this channel, I always say that on my broadcasts, but you make a move on a driver to gain 1 position, you might lose a lot of time to the next driver ahead. That's the catch-22. And we've got Elliot House and Coleman Corkery contending for 9th spot here, excuse me. Coleman Corkery has found his way past Elliot House and dropped in down. Coleman Corkery 3 places gained in this race. He's doing very well, but they are welcoming Fabio Andrade to the party, as he was in the top 10 previously until a mistake dropped him out, and he's looking to get himself back into contention. This battle rages on. They're now collectively more than a second behind Paul Hans, who has got this in control. 3rd place is well and truly his at the moment. But what can happen from this battle? The BMW does seem to be struggling to hit the apex on some of these corners. I wonder if it is just generically faster not hitting the apex. But you can see Ollie Hansen, he's taking deeper, more shallow entrances to these corners, almost straight lining the entrance to the corner, and that just seems to suit the Mustang down to a T. Ollie Hansen is mastering it really, really well at the moment. Oh, and we got a car in the wall. That's Alex Ward. He spun it, come out of Coppice, and he's hit the wall. Has he damaged his engine? Has he damaged his engine? Yeah, it does look like he's struggling to get out of there. got it in reverse here. Now it is going to keep going. Ooh, I hope he's not... Yeah, he's okay. But he has got a lot of bodywork missing from that car there. A big battle happening here. Sorry to see that happen to Alex Ward. He drops down to 15th place, what was looking like a pretty decent 7th or 8th for him. But it puts these drivers up in position. Coleman Corkery defending from Fabio Andrade. They're all in the top 10, but they're battling for 8th spot. Now remember, 10th position is reverse grid pole position for race 2. And look who's gaining back on that top 10. Heading back towards where he started. Nikolai Mikov wants 10th place, and he wants it now, and he wants that pole position for the next race. It could be a four-way battle for 8th position, and it could be a four-way battle to keep themselves in reverse grid contention at this rate for the remaining 3 minutes of the race. We'll have about 3 more laps to go as Ollie Hansen continues to press Jeff Perkis, as Remo Schneider drops off a little bit from these drivers. Oh, you can just see Ollie Hansen gets so close to Jeff Perkins with the different lines he's taken through these corners. And at this point in the race, the tyres are going to get more and more slippery, particularly on the rear end where they're getting worked most. And which drivers are going to be able to keep hold of it, and which drivers have conserved their tyres best. Perkins much better through the hairpin there. And Alex Ward is heading into the pits. That is race over for Alex Ward, unfortunately, but he'll be able to carry on in race 2. Half an hour race that he might be able to gain back through the order. Andrade, so close. He's gained back up on Corkery and House. He's going to take to the inside going into the Melbourne hairpin, and he does. Oh, and it was quite a good move, but contact from Coleman Corkery, and here comes Nikolai Mikov on the undercut, trying to get back alongside and into 10th place where he started this race from. It was initially a good move from Andrade, but he did understeer a little bit, and there was a little bit of contact to help him along the way from Coleman Corkery. 5-way battle here. We've also got Ollie Hansen so close to Jeff Perkis, and I've always compared Jeff Perkis to Matt Neal, one of the most difficult people to pass in this championship, no matter what car he's driving. Coleman Corkery and Elliott House swapping positions. Oh, and Nikolai Mikov has dropped off. That might have been it. That might have been his chances of 10th position gone. Andrade will breathe a sigh of relief, and he can now focus on these two cars here as he gives a huge shunt up the rear of Coleman Corkery, saying, get a move on, mate. We've got Elliott House to catch here. Oh, is Andrade slipping it through the kink there and keeping it just about in control. Brilliant battling all across the field. We're looking at 2 battles at once. Ollie Hansen still not quite made the move, and Ian Deeney has taken a spin. He's in the wall, and that might be game over for him. That might be game over for Ian Deeney. I think it is. His engine has died, and he's out of the race. That promotes everyone up a position, including Nikolai Mikov, who's back into 10th position. These guys can battle on, and Fabio Andrade has found his way past Coleman Corkery while we were looking at Ian Deeney there. It's all kicking off in this final minute or so of the race. Clough will have another lap. This will be his final lap of this race. We've got loads of battles to watch. Corkery here has fallen behind House and Andrade in the space of 2 laps here, we've seen. But he's still in reverse grid contention. He's still got race 2 to think of. He's still hanging on to that top 10 spot. Janssen continues to press Perkis, but it seems like Perkis has got this all under control. 4 retirements in this race. It is really bitten hard, has this race. But a lot of drivers really providing the entertainment. What a drive from this guy. 3.5 seconds clear. He hasn't really had much to worry about. He's been a second or more clear for pretty much the entirety of the race. Hitting your marks when you're out in the lead and when you're in control, particularly as he was in qualifying, that's all you got to do. Just keep control, keep composed. As he heads towards the final 2 corners on the track, not a lot going on now elsewhere on the track. I think drivers have decided to settle in to their positions and just take the result they got. Clough heads towards the final hairpin. He will be the opening winner of the season in the World Touring Car Challenge hosted by Crest Autosport. Heads through the hairpin nice and clean and tidy. Here we go, across the line we go. Michael Clough wins race 1 of the championship here at Donington Park. Diego Quintal on his debut takes 2nd position in the Opel, and Paul Hans in the BMW will take 3rd place. Jeff Perkis will come across the line in 4th place with Ollie Jansen. Oh, that was only a 10th behind Jeff Perkis coming across the line there, but a brilliant 5th place for Ollie Jansen. Remo Schneider takes 6th position. Elliot House 7th position. I'm not entirely sure how many positions he gained, but it's definitely a lot. Brilliant race from Elliot House to get 7th position. He'd be really pleased with that, considering he had 1 lap of practice? I don't know how he does it. But fabulous driving from him. Andrade takes 8th position, having taken Corkery in the final moments of the race there. Now, bear in mind, Andrade did spin in the race, so he had to catch back up. So a brilliant effort from the Portuguese driver. Brilliant drive. Coleman Corkery, brilliant drive as well to gain quite a few positions to get himself back into that spot up there. But these are your race results. Fastest lap to Michael Clough as well. Not too far ahead of Quintal on that statistic, though. But it is Quintal 2nd behind Clough, Hans in 3rd with Perkis in 4th, Jansen 5th with Schneider in 6th, Elliot House 7th and Andrade in 8th. Coleman Corkery and Nikolai Mikov will start on the front row for race 2 coming up in just over 5 minutes time. Rodrigo Portugal finishes 11th, and rounding off the finishers will be Lee Balmer in 12th. The non-finishers were Ian Deeney, Liam Hopkins, Alex Ward and Carl Smith. We are going to go for a very, very quick break, but when we come back, it will be race 2. Don't go away. Welcome back everyone to Donington Park for the Crest Autosport Race Room League's World Touring Car Challenge featuring DTM 92. So we've seen race 1. And it was quite an exciting race, it's got to be said. Quite an exciting race. And we'll show you the results of that race as drivers get a little bit warmed up for this next race. Michael Clough winning the race, of course. Brilliant performance by himself in that first race to take the win by 3.7 seconds from Diego Quintal. Paul Hans had to work for it, but he got 3rd place. Brilliant performance from him, with Jeff Perkis of Next Gen Racing in 4th position, holding off Ollie Jansen for quite a few laps, and quite a battle between them two. It was great to watch, and involved in that battle as well was Remo Schneider, who finished 6th place in the Opel. Elliot House was one of the stars of that race, that's got to be said, gaining to 7th place, and that will put him 4th on the grid for the next race. Look out for him. That's got to be said. Look out for him in the next race. Fabio Andrade dropped off with a spin early on in the race, but caught back up to 8th position. A good comeback from him. Coleman Corkery taking 9th place, and reverse grid pole will go to Nikolai Mikov. Rodrigo Portugal in 11th position with Lee Balmer in 12th position. And non-finishers were Ian Deeney, Liam Hopkins and Carl Smith. And unfortunately Alex Ward has had to disembark from the race. He's had to withdraw from the race today. He's got problems at home. Wishing all the best obviously, and hopefully see him back at Zolder. So yeah, we're wishing him all the best. It's quite a shame he's had to pull out tonight, understandably, but we'll see if all is okay. So we've got the next race coming up very soon. Now, what we've had in past seasons is ballast applications to cars and that sort of thing, and that's not happening in between races 1 and 2 this season. So all it is getting yourself through the pack in this race coming up. But what we do have implemented for the season ongoing in future rounds is championship ballast. So that pretty much means that drivers such as Michael Clough are going to have quite a big whack of ballast on their car for the next race of the championship at Zolder. That's provided he can lead the championship going into that round. We've still got another race to go here tonight, where it can all change. Less than a minute to go. Drivers getting a little bit more practicing, including Lee Balmer, finishing 12th in the previous race. Let's see if he can get himself a bit more practice to get himself ready for this next race. And we can see the top 2 drivers from the previous race actually getting a little bit of practice out there, just keeping themselves in tip-top shape, I would assume. Michael Clough will be on cloud 9 right now, actually. Really pleased with his performance. He will be. And he'll be looking for a double win in this next race. So, as we prepare, this is the rest of the season. Zolder's coming up next week, followed by Paul Ricard in 2 weeks from today. 4 weeks from today will be Bathurst, 5 weeks from today will be Interlagos, and 6 weeks from today will be the Nordschleife. So here we go. This is the next race of the night. Nikolai Mikov will line up on pole position with Coleman Corkery alongside in second position. Row 2 will be taken up by Fabio Andrade and Elliot House on the outside. Row 3 taken up by Remo Schneider and Ollie Janssen, with row 4 taken up by Jeff Perkis and Paul Hans. 9th and 10th will be taken up by Diego Quintel and Michael Clough. 11th will line up Rodrigo Portugal with Lee Balmer in 12th. Ian Deeney line up 13th with Liam Hopkins and Carl Smith at the back of the grid. Here we go. This is the next race of the night here at Donington Park. Drivers are lined up on the grid. 15 drivers ready. Nikolai Mikov will be on pole position, and we're about to get underway for this final race of the night. Lights are red, and the marshals let them go. Away they go, and it was quite a delayed start, I thought, there from Mikov, especially from the Opel behind of Andrade. Across the grid goes Coleman Corkery to cover off some drivers, but here we go into turn 1 we go, and this is Remo Schneider slotting through into 3rd place. Wide there goes Paul Hans, and he's off on the gravel, but away goes Mikov. A brilliant first corner for him. He blasts away from the field. Elliot House drops down 2 positions to 5th at the moment. Not very reminiscent of his opening race, but there's still time to go in this race, in this lap. Michael Clough there in 9th place. He's moved up 1 place. The driver who's dropped off the most are Ian Deeney and Paul Hans. And here we go. Michael Clough has got to be patient. He's got the pace to get through this pack. He doesn't necessarily need to do it quickly. He just needs to do it cleanly. So we'll see how he gets on here. Quintal is on the inside. Oh, and a big dive there. And cars come together. And somehow they stay in a straight line. Elliot House drops another 2 places. He's down to 7th place. Getting a bit pushed around here is House. And he is now behind Perkis and Quintal. Quintal, who went for a big dive. And to the outside goes Michael Clough from Elliot House. Oh, and across the chicane he goes. I think he might have got away with that. Yes, he did. And that was a brilliant move, if he can complete it, from Michael Clough to get into that 7th position. And he does get it done. Elliott House is really struggling here on this opening lap of this race. Previous race, he was all over everyone. Ollie Jansen now trying his hands at Elliott House. And through he goes. I wonder if House has damage. It seems to be a bit of a precarious start for him. Rodrigo Portugal, who had a disastrous first race, is hoping to get himself involved and up the order a little bit now. He's in the place where he started at the moment. But at the front it is Nikolai Mikov who leads the way from Coleman Corkery and Ramos Schneider in third place. The most places gained is Diogo Quintal at the moment, 4 places gained. And he'll have eyes on the standings. He'll have eyes on Michael Clough of where he is in this race. He'll see him as his biggest threat at the moment. Speaking of which, the aforementioned Clough is in 7th position. So moved up 3 places at the start of this race. And from what I saw, he did it quite cleanly as well. Paul Hans here in 10th place, dropped back a few places, flashing the lights to Elliott House. He headed through under the bridge there. And he's looking to get himself back up into the mix. Clough here to the inside of Jeff Perkis. He keeps hold of the inside, got his tyres alongside the rear tyres of Perkis. And round he goes. Let's see if he can complete this move. Yes, he can. Through he goes. Fantastic from Clough. He moves up another place. His next driver in his sight is Quintal, who's looking to make a move on the driver ahead of Andrade, his teammate, but to the lead goes Coleman Corkery. Oh, he overshoots it a little bit, but he managed to hold it off, and through into the lead he goes. Coleman Corkery leads this race past Mikov into the Melbourne hairpin, and Remo Schneider's looking to follow the Irish driver through into the final hairpin he goes. Remo Schneider is up into 2nd place. A brilliant start to this race for the Swiss driver. Clough is right on the back of Andrade, who let through his teammate. And he's going to try and defend this, is Andrade. Clough, is he close enough to go for a move just yet? Not quite. Into red gate we go. And an undercut is on. And he's actually doing very well to get past so far. Rear wing view of Clough. Let's see when the Opel appears. You can just see it on the right there. Contact between the two. And Andrade goes for a spin. There was contact between the two. Heading towards the tyres. Oh, and I think he's managed to keep that going. There might be a little bit of damage on the car. But he has had his race pretty much ruined there. Not entirely sure who was at fault between the two. But contact happened and it sent a driver off into the gravel. Hopefully he can recover his race here, but we've got a battle here for 2nd and 3rd. Mikov is holding off Remo Schneider as Coleman Corkery is pulling away at the front here. And we've got Diogo Quintal, who was contending for the top spot in the previous races, looking to get past these drivers ahead, as now meeting him behind is Michael Clough. He's the one to keep an eye on in this series very clearly. Through the chicane we go. Oh, and actually a pretty good exit from Quintal there, and Clough getting all out of shape there. He managed to keep hold of the car to the Melbourne hairpin. Late on the brakes goes Quintal, and he's to the inside of Remo Schneider, and through he's going to go. And look who's getting involved as well. It's Jeff Perkis. He managed to get a good undercut from Michael Clough, and I think he's ahead, but he's got the outside for the hairpin coming up here. Clough managed to stay ahead. There we go. Good stuff from Clough there to hold his position, keep calm, and get it through. Keep his position, but Quintal has moved another place ahead and he's gaining rapidly already on Nikolai Mikov, our pole sitter for this race. But at the front, Coleman Corkery, he'll love this. He'll absolutely love this. He's pulling away, but he's a long way to go in this race. He'll want Mikov to hold off these drivers as much as possible. Through the crane of curves and Hollywood we go. Clough to the rear of Remo Schneider, and Quintal has had a good exit. Mikov went wide a little bit through the old hairpin, and through goes Quintal into 2nd place. He's back into the spot where of which he finished in the first race. Remo Schneider is still guarding off from Michael Clough, and he's trying to make a move up here on Nikolai Mikov, and actually to the inside now goes Michael Clough, making the undercut. And he'll have the inside for Koppis. Oh, and he's going to try and get the double overtake, but he moves it. He loses shape. There was a big concertina there between the cars, and it just put Clough out of shape. And he loses loads of positions. Now it's going to be a hard task for him to try and win this race and catch up with his current rival, Quintal, who's in 2nd place, moving away from these drivers and towards the top spot of Coleman Corkery. In amongst
The mist here is Ollie Hansen trying to battle Jeff Perkins like what he did in the previous race, and they all back up into the Melbourne hairpin as they go under 50 kilometers per hour through that corner. And Clough has got to work really hard to get this back towards the top spot. As we see Ollie Hansen really taking care through that final hairpin. They're taking these corners so slow. They are also trying to keep hold of the tyres, keep them less degraded. As we see a spin from Rodrigo Portugal, he drops behind Lee Ballman now. Now Rodrigo Portugal was quite close to the rear of this pack here, and he's dropped off now rather unfortunately. Biggest gainer at the field so far is Diego Quintal. What a progress through the field he has made. In just 7 minutes of racing, he's up into second place from 9th on the grid. Brilliant from the Portuguese driver. And he's not quite gaining on Coleman Corkery yet, but granted, he was the quicker driver in qualifying and in race 1, so he's got the chance to catch up with him in plenty of time. And actually he's under a second as we just talking about that then. Here we go, Michael Clough, can he get it out of the corner? He was certainly quicker than Ollie Hansen, but Janssen guarded really well in front of the Brit then. Into the chicane we go. Janssen, well, it's Paul Hans in front, but Janssen is struggling to get past these BMWs, and the undercut's on from Michael Clough, who had a cleaner run through the chicane to the inside, not giving much room on the outside is Clough. He is a bit PO'd right now. He definitely wants to get back up the order. And Elliot House with the undercut on Ollie Hansen, but he has the outside for the next corner. He's going to switch to the inside. No, he's going to switch back to the outside. But Ollie Hansen here under a bit of pressure from the drivers around him. Remo Schneider quite close to Nikolai Mikov. This is contention for the 3rd spot. Oh, and actually we have missed a move for the lead. Oh, I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen. We have missed that. No replay race room again. But yeah, Quintal has made a move for the lead on Coleman Corkery, and he gained rapidly on him. It was only a lap ago we were saying, well, Quintal's 1.5 seconds off. He's caught and passed Corkery and pulled away a little bit in that time as we see Michael Clough off the road. It is not going well for him in this race. He's dropped to 9th. He's dropped to 10th. He's back where he started at the start of this race. In 9 minutes of racing, he has not progressed. It's been a difficult race for him so far, and he's got to work extremely hard to get it back up through the order again. This bodes well for Quintal. He'll love seeing the name of Clough drop down the order, because this is good for championship points for Diogo Quintal, who leads this race, and a 2nd place in race 1. Not quite maximum points, but very near. Jeff Perkins close to Remo Schneider, up ahead. Clough has made a move on Ian Deeney for... oh, there we go, that would be why. Ian Deeney has spun coming out of the hairpin, and that promotes Clough to 9th place, and that puts Deeney well and truly out of contention at the moment. Alongside goes Jeff Perkins on Remo Schneider, but Remo Schneider is guarding very well, and I'm noticing this about the Opels. They are able to guard their positions very well. With all that downforce, it's quite easy to get it into certain lines that they want through these corners. I don't think the BMW and the Mustang can quite do that. We haven't got really a big representative of the Mercedes in this series either. The Mercedes is the most loose rear end of all the cars, so that might be why people haven't quite chosen it. But I would say the Mercedes is probably the most potent car. Liam Hopkins and Carl Smith battling going into Redgate here. That's a move complete from Hopkins, and he moves up the order. More points for Hopkins. That's what he'll want. And still battling going on between these two as they head through the Crater Curves and Hollywood here. But it looks like Hopkins has got that move well and truly tied up, and he can now focus on progressing back towards the main pack, which is about 11 seconds up the road. Deeney behind Rodrigo Portugal. Portugal hasn't had the best of rounds. He's been a bit quiet, a bit in the wings here, but he's in the top 10 here, and he's going to be battling with Deeney here. Oh, hang on. Oh, no, this might be race over for Yes, it is. It's race over for Remo Schneider. Something's happened to him. And Fabio Andrade has dropped off. He's dropped to the back here. I'm not entirely sure what's happened to him. Big drama at the moment, and Remo Schneider's just gone missing from my standings as well. That might mean he's left the server. I think it may have. I'm not entirely sure what's happened to him there. But Remo Schneider out of this race. Big shame for him. Real big shame. Hopefully he can join the chat, join the stream and let us know what actually happened to him. We did miss it. So these drivers real settled in now. It's quite spread out between a lot of these drivers. The most notable battle on the track at the moment is Perkis versus Hans versus Janssen. Oh, and we did have Dini versus Portugal, but Portugal's gone off the road there at Redgate, and now he's going to be in a battle with Lee Balmer as Lee Balmer, evasive action, and he's going to spin it. He had to take evasive action, and that would have put the car out of shape, and that was his chance at contending for those positions gone. And it's still fairly close here, by the way, between Carl Smith and Liam Hopkins. And still trying to recover is Lee Balmer. Back towards the front. Perkis is in fourth position. Mikov has been let off the hook a little bit. He's able to break away from this pack, and he's actually gaining on Coleman Corkery here. So Mikov certainly in contention for a podium. He may have finished 10th in the previous race, but do not write him off. He did very well to catch back up with Corkery and House in the previous race. So it's certainly worth keeping an eye on how he will perform in this race. We've got Perkis, who's stuck in a battle with Paul Hans. I think has passed Paul Hans in the last few seconds, I do believe. They're worrying about each other while Mikov can just pull away. Michael Clough gaining on Elliott House. Now we can see Michael Clough is so smooth through these corners. On board with him as we watch him prepare a move on Elliott House. You can see the difference in the lines he's taking. Later apexes, more straight-lined exits. That's able to give him this gain that we're seeing heading up the hill here. He's going to position to the left, and then he's going to swap back to the right. Oh no, he's going to try the outside. Can he make it round? Yes, he can. What a move from Michael Clough there to get it into 7th place. Now, I wasn't expecting that. I'm a pretty good racer as well. I did not expect that. It was quite a good move. Maybe Michael himself didn't expect it either. But quite a good move. Elliott House did not contend it too much. He probably knows that Clough is quicker than him. He probably knows he can just stick to the rear and use him to try and gain back up to the cars up ahead. Smith and Hopkins are still battling as well. Smith's moved back ahead, and I think Fabio Andrade might be getting himself involved in this as well. So let's keep an eye on these drivers here. There's quite a few little battles across the grid. Hans and Jeff Perkis. It's safe to say that these two are going to be battling for what might look like third in the championship at the moment. Thing is, winning a race in this championship will score you. I'm just trying to remind myself of the point system at the moment. That is not the point system I'm looking at there. I won't be able to bring it up on screen. Don't quite have the graphics to do that just yet. But it's the same point system as the MX5 League. There's no categories in this championship either. I've got points here, 50 points for first place, but 40 points for second place. So winning these races is hugely beneficial. And that's the thing with Quintal at the moment. He's scored 40 points, and as it stands, 50 points, totaling 90 to what Clough will score, which will be only 76. So it will be a decent size lead already in the championship for Quintal. Even though race 1 did not go to plan for him, and it could be safe to say that he's not the quickest driver out on the track. Clough is coming back here. He's coming back. He's up into 6th place. He's making his way past Ole Janssen. And Elliott House with a slow down penalty. He's got to make sure he serves it quick. If you don't serve slow down penalties, they give you a drive through penalty through the pits. That's something you definitely don't want in such a series like this, where it's quite difficult to gain back positions. Nikolai Mikov is gaining still on Coleman Corkery. He's driving magnificently, is Mikov, in this race. He has dropped 2 places, granted, but he's recovered, and it seems to be later in the race that Mikov is driving really, really well. And his drift around Hollywood just then was immense. He's got a bit of mojo now, has Mikov. He's got the sight of the Irish driver up ahead, and he's going to set his sights on that position. He's forgetting about the drivers behind. He's going to focus on getting past the Irish driver of Corkery in front. His lines are so much better through these corners as Corkery is under a little bit of pressure now. Braking earlier. And there we go, he puts down the throttle a little bit earlier, which means he's able to power it through the corner, but getting a little bit out of shape there, the power down a bit too much rather than too early. That allows Corkery to stretch away into the chicane. That was quite a good clean corner from Mikov, but they were fairly even on pace. Breaking into the hairpin. Oh, and Corkery goes deep. Here goes Mikov to the inside. Has he got a better exit? I'm not entirely sure he has, and it's quite close for the battle for 4th as well between Perkis, Hans and Clough. To the inside goes Mikov. Can he get later on the brakes? No, he can't. And all this is welcoming the drivers behind to get involved. Oh, and to the inside there goes Paul Hans. He might have slipped up coming out of the hairpin there, and that allows Michael Clough through. He's into 5th place. This is better for his championship chances. That is one thing he's going to have to note here. 80 points as it stands for Michael Clough. That's not that is not including any bonus points, however. We'll be having bonus points for fastest lap and pole position, and both of which he'll have 4 bonus points. So there we go, 84 points as it stands for Quintal, but that's not counting what's going to happen in this race. I believe Diego Quintal has the fastest lap, so that opens up the gap between them. But Clough, I think, has more positions to gain in this race. He's close to Jeff Perkis. And Paul Hans has dropped off a little bit from these 2 drivers. He might be able to gain back up. I think Clough can write off a potential win in this race, but you never know. You never know in this race. He'll have his sights set on 2nd place up ahead there. Oh, what a good exit from the chicane. Brilliant exit from the chicane from Michael Clough there. He gets it alongside Jeff Perkins, and it's easy pickings from here on. Don't overshoot the corner too much. And that he did not. He did not overshoot the corner. And a little bit of a nudge from Jeff Perkis to try and help his case, but it didn't quite work. Nice try. Into the final hairpin, Clough. Oh, and there's contact between him and Mikov. Mikov got it all out of shape, and that collected Clough, and he's back behind Perkis and Paul Hans. This guy cannot get any luck in this race at the moment. He's back down to 5th, and up to 3rd place goes Jeff Perkis with Paul Hans right behind him. Clough has got to do it again. And he's back alongside Paul Hans. A brilliant exit from Redgate. And through the Crane of Curse we go. He's going to try and get it past to the outside of Hollywood. Contact between the 2, and he keeps it hold. And Paul Hans does as well. But into 4th place goes Michael Clough. And Paul Hans is struggling to hang on now from Nikolai Mikov, who's on the comeback. He was looking for 2nd place. Now he's looking to get back into 5th place. The claims we go, oh, and he tried to take the inside, oh, and somehow he keeps it going with very good car control, but it was a move that probably wasn't going to happen, and now he drops down to 7th place. It was looking real good for the Bulgarian driver, but it hasn't come to what he wanted. But this battle rages on. Looking for the podium spot, which he was looking at only half a lap ago, was Michael Clough, and now he's looking to get back into that spot through dropping down to 5th, nearly 6th place at one point on this lap. He's had a lot of luck and all bad in this race. But one thing's for sure, when you have all the luck against you in the world, when you've got the pace to get into these good positions, that's something you certainly can rely on. And that's what Mike... Oh, hang on. No. Something's happened to Clough here. He's in the pits. He's gone into the pits. I'm not sure why. He doesn't have a penalty. Nothing came up. But he's in the pits. Has he got a puncture? Has he underfueled it? Has he underfueled it? Because he didn't go up on the jacks. I doubt it was a stop and go penalty. But that has really turned it upside down for him. Out on track now. He's 30 seconds behind Quintal. Well, hopefully we can find out. Remo Schneider has just let us know in the comments. Thank you for letting us know, Remo. A bit too hard on the throttle and has spun him round and into the fence. That's really unlucky, mate. Well, hopefully we'll see you back at Zolder. It was good driving tonight from you before then, obviously, but yeah, real unfortunate. Now, in the next 7 minutes, I've got to think of a driver of the day. I'm really not sure who right now. There's a lot of contenders. I think the obvious candidate would be Diego Quintal. I think besides what's happened in this race, Michael Clough would have been up for it. He's been phenomenal tonight, particularly in race 1 and qualifying. Quintal's probably been the all-round best driver, though, in terms of he's scoring points. 6 seconds clear here as well of Coleman Corkery, who's had a brilliant race here. Right now, this is kind of like what we were seeing from Elliott House in the previous race. Perkis and Paul Hans and Ollie Jansen, you can't separate the three at the moment. They've been fabulous so far tonight. Really entertaining drivers for tonight's race. Elliott House has also been really good tonight, with places gained, not necessarily in this race, but definitely in the previous race. He really did light things up. He really did have the cameras on him. And with 6 minutes to go, our order at the moment is Diego Quintal at the front, 6 seconds clear of Coleman Corkery, who's going to be pushing hard to keep away from Jeff Perkis, Paul Hans, and Ollie Jansen in 3rd, 4th and 5th. 6th place taken up by Elliott House at the moment. 7th place now. He was driving majestically earlier on, but a slight mistake hampered that. Nikolai Mikov is in 7th place at the moment. Ian Deeney has been a bit quiet today, but he's 6 places gained from where he started. Remember, he retired in race 1, but he's gaining up the order, and he couldn't quite keep hold of the car earlier on in the race, and he dropped to 8th, but 6 places gained from where he started. Michael Clough has had all the luck against him in this race. I would like to find out what happened to him once this race has ended, but that opening race has done good for him. Certainly has done good for him, and it's not going to write off a season, certainly isn't. But it's a bad result in the books already for Michael Clough. What he would consider, I would say, a bad result. Rodrigo Portugal is into the top 10. He'll be pleased with that. He won't be pleased with the few mistakes he's had tonight, but all learn and progress for him. He is very new to Race Room. That's one thing I know about Rodrigo, being one of my drivers. Very new to the sim, and he's just getting used to it. He's getting used to different cars that we're driving here. He has driven modern touring cars. He's driven the Mazda. He's driven the Formula 1 car. He is trying to find his feet a little bit with Race Room, and I think he's done a real good job tonight. Carl Smith has done a real good job in this race. He's got himself ahead of Lee Balmer and Liam Hopkins, whom of which he finished behind in the previous race. So a good job to him, getting himself up and through the order a little bit in 11th place here. Hopkins and Balmer still battling it out here in 12th and 13th. And Fabio Andrade still driving, but 1 lap down. He was in the pits for quite some time. Not really sure why, but it's not been the best of second races for him. But in the first race, he had a pretty good outing. So this is the most notable battle on the track. Jeff Perkis chasing down Coleman Corkery, but he's also got Paul Hans to worry about behind him. Paul Hans, who picked up a podium spot in the previous race. Can he make it 2 from 2? Battling hard with Jeff Perkis here. He's got to find the way past. He did in the previous race. But as we saw with Ollie Jansen in the previous race, Perkis is a hard driver to pass. He did it once, but he'll believe he can do it again. But Perkis wants a podium finish. The own driver, as it stands, he'll have 2 podium finishes tonight, will be Diogo Quintal, who starts another lap here. He'll have 3 more laps, I believe. Paul Hans looking to get by Jeff Perkis. He's got to find a way. He's got to find the chink in the armour of Jeff Perkis, who's on home turf here. I believe he lives in Leicestershire, so this will be his home track. But Paul Hans will feel at home in these cars, that's for certain. German driver driving a German manufacturer in a German series. DTM I'm talking about. Oh, a shallow entry into McLaren's there, and that probably means Jeff's feeling it on his tyres a little bit. Drivers will be feeling it now on their tyres. They will be getting very, very, very hot, very, very worn out, will these tyres, and that's one thing that's going to separate the best from the rest here in this final part, final 10% of this race. He's handling those tyres, and I think Jeff Perkis is struggling with the front tyres at the moment. He seems to be understeering a lot of corners here. Paul Hans with a good exit from the chicane there. Takes 2 the outside. Can he get it round? Not quite. Undercut? No, not even that. Perkis is hanging on to it very, very well here, and he's guarding the inside already for the next hairpin. To the outside again. Big exit here. Oh, and this might not be a bad exit from the corner. Hans is on the inside as we head towards Redgate. This could be the move for 3rd place. It is a move for 3rd place. And Ollie Jansen's trying to make a move, but Paul Hans has moved in front and into 3rd place. Back into the spot of which way he finished in race 1. What can Jeff Perkis do to fight back? I think he is struggling with his front tyres. He seems to be understeering a lot at this point. Can he hold it in front of Ollie Jansen? I'm not sure he can. He seems to be struggling a lot at this point. He really does. He's dropping off from Paul Hans, which happened in the previous race as well. Up towards McLaren's we go. Oh, and a big lunge from Jeff Perkis there. He's not giving up. He never does. Oh, and actually put out of shape a little bit. Paul Hans, through no contact, put him out of shape. Oh, he can't make the lunge going into Coppice. Round the corner we go. He's not going to give up, and Paul Hans is going to set his sights on Coleman Corkery. Why not? There's going to be another lap to go after this, and Coleman Corkery's driving valiantly in this race. He can get himself a podium here. Some valuable championship points for the Irishman. Into the chicane. What can Perkis do? He's got limited grip. You can really see it. And actually Paul Hans had a really good exit from the chicane there. And Perkis has dropped off the back a little bit of Paul Hans, who's going to set his sights on Coleman Corkery up ahead. Now Diogo Quintal, we haven't mentioned him a huge amount in this race, but what a drive from this guy. What an absolute brilliant drive in this final race. He did all he had to do to win this race at the moment, which he is doing just that. And on that, Diogo Quintal wins Crest Autosport Driver of the Day award for his performance tonight. Jansen to the outside of Jeff Perkis. Couldn't quite make it. It's the only opportunity he seems to get is around the outside of Jeff Perkis, and he can't make that happen in the Mustang because it's so bad on grip and it's so bad on the brakes that what else can he do? We have seen a little bit of a correlation between the Mustang struggling to overtake on these more narrow corners, but the Mustang might come into play on the tracks where there's longer straights, such as Paul Ricard, such as Bathurst, and the Nordschleife, of course. So do look out for the Mustang on those tracks. That's what I'm going to say at this point. Hans looks well in control of his 3rd place here, and he's trying desperately to catch up with Coleman Corkery, who's only got 4 more corners to defend his 2nd place spot here. We'll go on board with Paul Hans to see how good his exit can be. He's much better under braking, but Coleman Corkery had a good exit. So did Paul Hans actually, but I don't think he's close enough. I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a move. Oh, he did take a look. He did take a look, and I think Elliot House has stopped on the inside there. Something's happened to Elliot House. I think he might have run out of fuel, but we have to switch to the leader. We'll find out what happened to Elliot House just a few moments now as coming through. It's been a near perfect night for Diogo Quintal, and he wins the second race of the night. A brilliant drive from him, and another brilliant drive also from second place, Coleman Corkery. Valuable points in the championship for him. He'll love that result. Paul Hand, it's 2 third place finishes. A brilliant performance for him. That'll do some good to his championship as well. Jeff Perkis, a repeated 4th place and a repeated 5th place for Ollie Janssen. Nikolai Mikov, he'll be pleased with that. He did start from pole, but a 6th place and good championship points for him. Ian Deeney, a disappointing first race, but he'll be happy to make up for 7th in this race. Michael Clough, a brilliant first race and just no luck in this race it seems. He finishes 8th position. Rodrigo Portugal betters by 2 places his result from race 1, and he'll come through the final corner to take 9th place. And he'll be pleased with that improvement there. And I think Elliot House did run out of fuel at the end there. Oh, I hate seeing that. I really hate seeing that. People run out of fuel. But, you know, when you fuel these cars on the limit, you got to be careful. You got to be really careful. You might have anticipated that it'll be one less lap than it was. Carl Smith has driven a very good second race here. He finished, I think he finished last in the previous race. He did, actually, he did. And this is a big improvement for him. Places gained to get 10th position. Bravo to Carl Smith. And rounding off the finishes are Liam Hopkins, Lee Balmer and Fabio Andrade. But our winner and our driver of the day tonight and our championship leader after tonight, Diogo Quintal. And there's the results of the final race of the night. And it'll be 2 bonus points as well for Quintal for fastest lap. And the E-Motion driver takes the win from Coleman Corkery, a brilliant 2nd place for him. Holding off Paul Hans to the end, who did brilliant tonight to gain through the field to get 3rd place. Perkis in 4th with Ollie Janssen in 5th. Mikov in 6th with Ian Deeney in 7th and Michael Clough in 8th. Rodrigo Portugal 9th, and rounding off the top 10 is Carl Smith. Hopkins takes 11th from 2nd place Lee Balmer. Fabio Andrade in 13th from Elliot House, rounding off the finishers. Well, in fact, he didn't. He did not finish with that running out of fuel on the final lap. Remo Schneider and Alex Ward, non-starters in this second. Remo Schneider was a starter, but he had issues at the beginning. And Alex Ward, a non-finisher. But there we go, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, that was tonight's round 1 of the championship of the World Touring Car Challenge. Our race winners tonight were Michael Clough and Diogo Quintal. Up next, in 1 week's time, so see us here 8 o'clock-ish on the channel. It's Zolder in Belgium for the 2nd round of the championship. 2 days after Valentine's Day, so you get to relax after the intensity that is Valentine's Day. We're back here 1 week from today on this channel, so do look forward to it then. Do subscribe to the channel. Do like the video. It does help the algorithms by liking the videos, and we will appreciate that, as well as the subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. This has been round 1 of the championship. The World Touring Car Challenge, Season 5, Round 1 here at Donington Park. We'll see you next time at Zolder. Thank you very much for watching. Good night.